right, thank you for coming to the OKD Working Group meeting for November 22nd of the year 2022. This is our first meeting on Zoom, and folks can check out the updated Fedora calendar. And there's also a new page on the GitHub in the OKD Working Group project as part of the OKD project GitHub repo, and there was also something sent out over the Google discussion, and I can even put something in the chat next time in the Slack channel. So let's go ahead and jump into the meeting stuff, because we do have someone that wants to present here. Please do put your name in the attendees section so that we know that you were here or not here, as the case may be, if there's any information that needs to get to you. So agenda review, let's take 30 seconds to look over the agenda, and please let us know if there's anything that you would like added, changed, or moved. So we'll take about 30 seconds to do that. All right, any changes, modifications, anything that we've missed? All right, folks seem to be happy with that. So let's move forward and start out with our OKD release and CI/CD updates with Christian, Vadim, Luigi, etc. Take it away, Christian.
Sure. Hey, everybody. So Vadim has got a new OKD and FCOS release this weekend. Yeah, and that's about all I can say right now regarding that. I haven't had a chance to actually look at the feedback, whether there's any comments. I think there are a couple of comments. Quickly check. Yeah, I think that there is one issue still with the machine operator, machine config operator not initializing. And Vadim has a PR open on the installer to fix that. So if you hit that, it's a race condition. So you might get lucky if you just try again for anybody who hits that issue upon installing. Yeah, so hopefully we will figure that out, and with the next release, that'll be fixed. And that's it for the release news. I think I can go ahead and also touch on the next SCOS updates. The internal OKD engineering group, last week we had Hack Week, meaning everybody was able to work on things they were interested in, and we had a couple of folks internally joining the OKD effort, or rejoining, with Zach having worked on a Tecton pipeline to automate our release procedure, which is gonna be immensely helpful going forward for both the FCOS releases as well as the SCOS releases. And that is really, really awesome. So that's kind of in preparation for the internal CFE, customer focused engineering team that Luigi leads, which will take over the release engineering in the long term. And there will be, I think, a stricter release cadence every 3 weeks, at least for the OKD on SCOS releases, and we'll still have to sync with Vadim a little bit, whether he wants to hand that over to the CFE team as well. If he does, then the cadence would also be 3 weeks. For OKD on SCOS, we plan to do a sprintly release, and that is every 3 weeks. Shireen from our engineering group has also been working on a blog post describing essentially the release payload and how we build it in Prow, and how we are going to build it, or how we build it in the Tekton pipelines. It's important to note that for the official SCOS release stream, the actual payload will continue to be built in Prow, but we are also working on the OKD release pipeline, which will enable anybody to build their own custom release. And if we really get that into good shape, then we might also internally change some things and make use of that. That is more of a long-term plan, though. We do obviously plan on making that very easy to use. So essentially starting with the OKD CoreOS pipeline, and then continuing with the OKD release pipeline and going through to the operator pipeline, we will essentially have tasks and pipelines for building OKD from scratch. Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting things coming. I've also been working on getting the OKD CoreOS pipeline released to Tekton Hub. So I'll probably it'll take a couple of days more for that to get released. But once we have that, we really have a discoverable entry point, I think, for these pipelines. And hopefully we'll get more people using them and get feedback on how to improve them that way. So a lot of changes coming there. And that's really it from my side.
Excellent. Do we have, Luigi, did you want to add anything in terms of anything that was discussed here? Anything you want to throw on there?
No, all good. I think Christian wrapped it up quite nicely and neatly.
I actually forgot to talk about what you worked on, Luigi, last week, which is also really exciting. So there is, do you want to talk about the build to shipwright conversion?
Oh, yes. Oh, the shift week. Yeah. Go for it.
So essentially, our payload pipeline currently uses OpenShift builds to do the container builds of each component in the payload. That is obviously an OpenShift API, so you require OpenShift to build OpenShift, which is a bit of a chicken and egg problem. And there is also essentially a successor to this builds API, which is the shipwright builds API. Shipwright is an operator, so you can install it on any Kubernetes cluster, and that will and that really allows you to do these builds on a kind cluster, on any Kubernetes cluster. So we've been working on converting those builds v1 version 1 to the shipwright builds v2 API. And to help with that, Luigi has crafted a tool to automatically kind of translate those resources into the shipwright API. We're not, and shipwright isn't quite there yet, so we will be able to use shipwright for the builds. And then there's another thing kind of that we, as a stretch goal, either are going to work on ourselves, or the shipwright folks have actually picked up that work, which is using shipwright builds as custom tasks within Tekton pipelines, meaning we'll then be able to put the entire OKD payload pipeline, which currently isn't really pipeline because it's only build tasks that aren't Tekton tasks. We'll eventually be able to run all of that within a Tekton pipeline too. So really the goal here is to move everything into Tekton. And I forgot another thing, which we'll hear about in this meeting as well from Robert and Marco, possibly. Marco's here too. The search tool, Luigi has actually worked on a pipeline to automate running the certification tool on a cluster that you on a release that you just built. So you essentially build a release, deploy it somewhere, and then you run the certification tool on that cluster to run end-to-end and conformance tests, which should really give you a good signal whether your build was a success. And that, again, can be run by anybody. It doesn't need PROW to run the end-to-end tests, which is the way we're currently doing it. So another thing, really kind of loosening the grip PROW has on us and making things more approachable. So really cool. Thank you for that, Luigi.
Yeah, no problems. I had a lot of fun doing it. Just a quick note on the provider certification tools. You guys have done an outstanding job. It's really easy to implement and wrap it up in a Docker file and use it in Tekton. So kudos to you guys. Well done.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Thanks.
Very good to hear the feedback from the community. Thanks.
Excellent. Let's now move on to our Fedora CoreOS updates with Timothy.
Hey, so today will be quite quick. The first item is that we're moving Fedora CoreOS to Fedora 37. Note that it has been released. I think it's 2 weeks ago we released it or something like that, or last week. And so testing is now based on Fedora 37, and stable will be in a week or something. And no major issue so far. So yeah, please give it a test, and it will probably end up in some OKD release at some point. May not be for 12, but maybe later. All right, the second point I had is an example of what you can do with CoreOS layering. So I'm not sure CoreOS layering is fully enabled or there yet in OKD. It should be in 4.12. We'll see the status of things there. But an example of what will be possible in the future with CoreOS layering here is, for example, how to get ZDFS support on top on Fedora CoreOS. So if you want to have ZDFS support in your OKD cluster, that could be possible with that. So that's what I think. And that's it for me.
Excellent. Now let's move over to community updates with Brian.
Okay. So yeah, we had our meeting last week. Let me get the notes. Few things. So we've got a volunteer to actually write up the single node OpenShift process. So Dwayne's going to do that with Luigi. We also have no update about the email hosting. So we do want to get email, and Red Hat's OSPO team are helping us on that, but we're waiting on them to come back. We had a discussion around the new design for the latest news feature on the homepage. We asked for views on what was the best design, and I think everybody chose a different design. So I'm currently mocking up, and I will then ask for votes as to which of the mock-ups we want to go forward with. And then we had quite an interesting discussion around video tutorials and some of the posts that have been in the discussion forum, where people have been saying they get stuck and then posting links from OpenShift 4.6, 4.8. And we think that's largely due to the following out-of-date YouTube tutorials. So we are looking to work out what's out there, what are the popular YouTube sort of tutorials for the various different install options, the different platforms, UPI, IPI, etc. And then we want to actually then work out, can we get people to actually update them, or should we as a community be proactively managing a set of tutorials that are already always up to date. So the first part of that is just finding out what's there. So if you go to the HackMD for the community, we have set up a discussion thread, and I'll post that in once I finish. I'll post that into the chat for this meeting, where we're trying to harvest, if you know of a good resource, a good YouTube video, a good blog site, a good website where people have taken time to actually write a good install video or set of instructions, then we're just trying to find what are the best resources out there, so we can then work out what's the next step. But we think that's one of the problems that people are hitting. They're getting access to old tutorials, and then things have moved on, things have changed, or they're trying to actually install a 4.6 OpenShift today, where we obviously want them to be updated. So we had quite a lively discussion around that. And we also talked about the community OKD catalog. So this is, do we want to create an OKD catalog? How do we go about doing that? What's the process for it? What's the governance for anything that's in that catalog? So we have an issue on the OKD project, and again, the note says Jamie's going to add content for that. And I think that's it in terms of what we discussed. Unless I'm forgetting anything, Jamie.
The only thing I would add is, it didn't dawn on me that KubeCon EU in Amsterdam is going to be happening in, is it March? I think. No, later.
It's
July.
end of April.
April, okay. Does anyone know, have they closed down submissions yet or not?
Yeah, it was last Friday.
Was it? Okay. All right. Well, I think moving forward, we're going to want to stay on the ball for that and see when we have opportunities for submissions. Just sort of rewinding for folks that aren't aware, Diane is basically, for the most part, done, right? And Luigi is going to be our Red Hat person in the group. And at that point, since Diane has essentially stepped away or is slowly stepping away over the next couple of weeks, we're going to want to sort of all contribute towards filling in the things that she would do, like keeping our eye out for opportunities for presentations, keeping our eye out for opportunities for collaboration and whatnot. We don't want it all to fall on Luigi's shoulders. Luigi's already doing so much on the technical side, right? So we're going to have to sort of pick up the slack a little bit, and I'll have more time, hopefully, in the next couple of weeks to start doing some of that stuff. But keep your eyes open, keep your eyes peeled for opportunities. Christian, you have your hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, really, now that Diane is stepping away, do we know who is the main organizer for OpenShift Commons events going forward? Because we obviously now for the KubeCon CFP, that is for the official KubeCon talks. Usually there was also always the opportunity to do talks at an OpenShift Commons, which would typically be a kind of day zero pre-KubeCon event. So if we know who organizes that, it might be Karina Angel.
I think it is actually, yes, exactly. So Diane, that's what she mentioned. Right, exactly. So yeah.
So we should definitely sync up with her and get her to always tell us and to always invite as many of us to the comments there. I know I've met Karina. She's awesome. So I think we should kind of definitely get you, Jamie, and Karina in touch to kind of get that. If you haven't met,
I don't think I have yet, no, but I can reach out. So.
And yeah, feel free to if you want to make this a broader meeting, feel free to add me there as well. Otherwise, yeah, she's super nice, and I think it would be good if you knew each other and just to make her aware that we're always interested, obviously, in this working group to join the Commons conferences.
Yeah. Well, she's
Yeah,
involved with the CNCF TOC, so yeah, I've probably read stuff from her for sure. Oh, Jack, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let me just actually, it's funny. I wanted to ask the exact same question: who would kind of be the responsible contact person now for the OpenShift Commons gathering? So, do we have an email address for Karina somewhere, or what would be the appropriate way to reach
Yeah,
her?
hold on 1 second. I literally just had it a second ago.
Maybe we should invite her here to this.
Yeah,
this.
that's a good idea. Should we
That's
all
a good
bombard
idea.
her emails or actually just invite her here next week or in 2
Yeah.
weeks?
Great
Let's-
idea.
Yeah, let's invite to the next. Jack, I will share the email with you, but let's also here's the email going in the chat here. There we go. But yeah, let's
Excellent,
definitely
thanks.
invite for sure, and then get some conversation going with the group. All right. Anything else on that topic before we move on to our presentation? No? Okay, great. Well, now we're up with a presentation on OPCT from Marco and Robert. Take it away.
Hello. Let me try to share my screen here.
Try
It's
again.
disabled.
Try again. I just said it's late. Okay.
Okay, cool. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes,
Yeah, I can see it.
Yes, we can see it.
Cool. So today I will run quickly about what is OPCT, OpenShift Provide Certification Tool, and I will share some information that can be public right now. So we are building OPCT is an OpenShift Provide Certification Tool. It is a tool to automate and to keep more easy way to run end-to-end tests for conformance, for Kube conformance and OpenShift conformance in clusters that it was designed to test clusters that is not fully integrated with OpenShift. For example, if you're a community builder, we would like to install OpenShift in your provider, and if you have a hardware and you are selling the hardware, if you would like to install OpenShift and certify it, you can do it using agnostic installation, platform none, well known as a platform none, and then you can run this tool to understand if it will pass in our conformance suite. It will keep the focus on the tests, end-to-end tests for conformance, which means that we are running Kube conformance suites. This is official suite for Kubernetes certification. And it will also run OpenShift conformance suite. It will run more than 3,000 tests, conformance tests for OpenShift, and will provide a feedback. Basically, the tool is split in 4 components. It's a CLI. We have a CLI, we have a plugins, end-to-end test itself, and documentation. The CLI is built on top of Sonoboy, so we are not building the tool from scratch. We are reusing community tools like Sonoboy that is also used by Kubernetes conformance. And basically, the CLI will implement the specific nuances for OpenShift Provider Certification program. So we will automate the execution of the end-to-end test. We will filter some results and provide a better feedback. And we will implement also some pre-flight tests to avoid running the end-to-end tests in cluster that is not healthy, for example. So the plugins, for someone that does not know Sonobuy, Sonobuy is a very extensive tool it runs by default the Sonobuoy, the Kubernetes end-to-end test, but it's possible to extend Sonobuoy by implementing plugins. So what we are doing in the certification tool is implementing a couple of plugins that we are calling OpenShift Provider Cert. And those plugins will run in the target clusters, automating the automate the end-to-end test defined on the Orange repo. The Orange repo is the core where all the end-to-end tests from OpenShift lives. So if you would like to know more, there is a very good README here that will explain what OpenShift test does and how to run specific tests and so on. The provider certification tool will automate the execution of OpenShift test utility using Sonobuoy. Basically, this is a very overall summary of the OpenShift provider certification tool. So, sorry. We are implementing custom plugins and we are providing a documentation for the users. That single documentation will guide you to how to download the tool, how to what is the prerequisite to implement, what is the topology of the cluster that you should create, install OpenShift, and run the tool. We are running by default in a dedicated environment. It will be changed default in the next release. It is basically will isolate the certification tool running inside the cluster in a specific node, applying taints to avoid disruption in the certification environment. But if you would like to try, just follow this user documentation, and it provides very detailed how you can download it, check if the cluster is in, has the specific node, apply the labels, apply the taints for the node, and you can just run it. Let me share more details about the tool itself under the hood to explain when to use and so on. The CLI, as I commented, the tool is basically split into two projects, CLI and plugins. The CLI extends Sonobuoy lib, so we are using all the features from Sonobuoy, but implementing some specific needs for certification tool, as I comment, and you are embedding the manifest from the plugin. So we are avoiding the users to send a lot of CLI commands when trying to customize Sonobuoy, for example. So that's the main goal, to create a CLI instead of using directly Sonobuoy. That's the main idea. And the plugins itself, that I commented that we implemented the plugin for OpenShift test utility, we will extract the OpenShift test utility available on the running cluster. So in the runtime, it will extract the OpenShift test utility and run the end-to-end tests. For information, all the end-to-end tests is defined inside that binary. For that reason, we are doing that. And with that strategy, we can ship the OpenShift provide certification tool without, regardless of the release of the OpenShift. So we can run the tool in any version of OpenShift because we are reusing the existing and we are extracting in the runtime the OpenShift test utility. Yeah, this is the under the blocks that the OpenShift certification tool have, and this is the basic architecture. Sorry, yeah, I guess it's better image. This is the building blocks of the architecture of OpenShift provides certification tool. As the user, they will run the CLI in their machine, in your own machine. You can download it and run it from your machine against the OpenShift cluster. When you run it, the Sonobuy aggregator will be created, Sonobuy server, and the Sonobuy will schedule the plugins that is available and created by the OPCT. Those plugins run as jobs in the cluster, and for a specific plugin that we are implementing for OpenShift test plugin, it will start running the end-to-end tests as normal. If you can run it directly with OpenShift test utility, you can download it and run, but the plugin will do it automatically, and there is no difference in that flow. The difference here that the plugin, when the OpenShift test will finish, the plugin will collect all the data and present to Sonobuy worker. Sonobuy worker will compile all the JUnit files, the Unity files, and process it and provide a feedback to aggregator. So the aggregator will, when all the conformance tests have been finished, the aggregator will aggregate all the data and provide a single tarball file to the user. So that's the main goal and the main automation that we are using Sonobuy, because we can define every logic that we would like to run in the target cluster in the CLI, and the Sonobuy will orchestrate everything that we need to run. After that, the user will collect the artifact and send to Red Hat to evaluate it. The goal is to evaluate if the certification, if the cluster is in conformance or not with OpenShift, or in conformance or not with Kubernetes. But as Christian and Luigi is doing, you can process this data and print it on the pipeline and fail if it's not conformance, or pass if it is in conformance or not. The future idea is to send it automatically through the support flow, because as I commented and as the name said, this is a tool created for the certification program. So we are creating some specific information for certification. We need to process this data in our backend and provide a better feedback to our partners who would like to certify their cluster. But it can be used by community only to run the cluster, collect it, and evaluate it without contacting Red Hat, without sending the data to Red Hat. That's basically the tool, what it does and how it runs. Open for questions.
Thank you, Marco. I do have one question. First of all, for the community, it's probably less interesting to provide that data to Red Hat for certification. Really, the tool is intended for new platform providers that aren't currently supported to be able to self-certify. If we are using this kind of to run end-to-end tests on release payloads that we build ourselves in one of the pipelines, can it also be used with a specific platform set, not setting platform none? Like, could we build an AWS or could we build a release payload, deploy it to AWS, and then run the search tool there? Or is it only supported if platform none is set?
The tool, there is no logic of the platform integration. So the OpenShift test utility will have all the logic of which end-to-end test to run. So there is nothing specific. If you are running a cluster in AWS, the tool will run. If you are running platform node, the tool will run. So there is no locking.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
Robert, if I missed something about the tool, feel free to.
Oh yeah, I'll speak up. Yeah, it'll kind of run anywhere, so it works. Works nicely for that.
Hi, Marco. I have a question. So I've tried to run version 0.56 of the tool on our OKD clusters, And we actually deploy our clusters without a container registry because all the clusters share a central registry. And it looks like the tool has like a pre-flight check early on where it essentially says it can't find a registry and then bombs out. Is there a way to run this tool with an external registry?
Yeah, I think we fail out
Go ahead,
on that.
Robert.
Oh yeah, I think we fail out on that because the end-to-end tests would fail. Actually, I'm trying to remember this. We set that up a long time ago. Maybe it was because the tool wouldn't start properly.
No,
I don't remember specifically.
the reason is here in this image. The tool will get the OpenShift test from the running cluster. So we need to extract from the internal registry that OpenShift test utility.
Yeah.
Currently, it's not possible to run in an external registry, but yeah, it's not possible. It could be done. It could be implemented when you're setting the. I think we can extract the OpenShift test from external release, but yeah, it is not implemented, but it could be in the backlog. But answer your question, currently is not supported, and the reason is that because you are extracting from the running cluster the OpenShift test utility, which is our backend to run end-to-end tests.
Okay. Thanks.
We will take the notes. That is a good, interesting.
Mhm.
Could I add a comment too?
Yep.
Yeah.
So Leroy, part of this as well, like when we were designing the certification tool, we were designing it also to certify like partner clusters that might be trying to create like deployments of OpenShift that we could then support. And so the official way that we deploy OpenShift now, if you do like an IPI installation, it wants to have its own internal registry there so that like image streams and builds and stuff work. So I think part of the work that we're doing with the install flexibility effort, which, the cert tool kind of feeds into, is that we're going to be improving the ability to manipulate the cluster image registry operator so that you could more completely configure an external registry to perform the duties that the internal registry does. So I think in the short term, it might be nice with the certification tool if we provide the ability to skip certain tests. That would probably allow you to get past the problems you're having. But in the future, my impression is that you would be able to use the image registry operator to have it point to your external registry, and then these tests should work transparently. Because in the end, what we'd like to do is enable partners to have the flexibility to change how that registry works. But all the necessary internal changes aren't quite there yet. So that's part of what you're seeing with the way the cert tool is running, if that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, no, totally. Thanks, Mike.
Just to very quickly add to what Mike just said, there's the install flexibility effort and an adjacent effort called composable OpenShift, which will actually, and I'm not sure whether it's targeted at 4.13 or 4.14 right now, that is going to allow you to really pick and choose from all the core components that are currently essentially always in your install, mandatory. You can't not choose them. You'll be able to essentially unselect things, possibly even the internal registry, saying you don't want the internal registry to be deployed, or you don't want the builds API or whatever to be installed. And so that'll help obviously with shrinking the footprint for OpenShift installs. And so there's a lot of things to come in that regards, and I think the cert tool will then have to catch up with that development too. But yeah, there is definitely a long-term goal to make the internal image registry optional.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right. Any more questions or feedback? All right, great. This was super informative and helpful, and I think a really cool thing to be utilizing moving forward. And I appreciate that you folks came and presented, and that folks asked some good questions, and that in general we had a good discussion coming out of it. And I think what we'll do is
maybe if I can just throw in a quick question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long do these tests kind of run on a typical cluster, and can you kind of pick and choose different I don't know, areas of the tests? So maybe just to give some context, my background would be when we're doing because we are building our own OKD clusters with various customizations and stuff layered on top, and then we're doing integration tests. And at the moment, all of those integration tests are kind of written from scratch by hand from us. So it would be interesting for us, because we don't really want or need to be certified, but it would be interesting to like take maybe some bits that are relevant for us and like run these tests. But if it's like one thing that runs for 6 hours, then it's maybe not super suitable.
That's about how long it takes.
All right. Okay.
Unfortunately, yeah. Here, I'll link an actual test. And excuse me, I have a cough this morning. Sorry, I'm trying to put it in chat. We run the tool periodically in Prowl in OpenShift's CI, and I put a link in the chat. This was run on the 20th, and let's see. We actually look at the timestamps and see. Run. Oh, I'm sorry. This one only took about 2 hours. It looks like. So I'm sorry, 2 hours, not 5 hours or 6 hours. So
yeah, it will depend of the platform, but yeah, between 2 and 4 hours, depending of the hardware and so on.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the point, Marco. Yeah, hardware.
And if you would like to run a specific subset of tests, you can download directly OpenShift test utility and run these commands. So you can run, for example, machine tests, storage tests by applying regex here, and you can run directly OpenShift test utility and provide you a feedback. Because the certification tool is more enclosure to certification program, but if you would like to run directly specific tests, you can do that. I can share that.
All right, that's already super interesting or super exciting news, actually.
Yeah, and also one other thing. Sorry, one other thing is that you can also target a specific node by labeling the node. The documentation is very good on showing you how to do that. And then for SNOs type of thing, you could label the node, tank the node, and run the test against that single node, which is very helpful.
All right, thanks for the elaboration.
excellent, very cool. All right, we have about 10 minutes left. Is there anything else that folks in the community want to talk about before we end the meeting?
Maybe because I forgot to mention it earlier, we are also, and I haven't raised that in a long time, we are also working on finally getting multi-arch releases or essentially ARM support done in OKD. So there is, I don't think Alessandro is here today, but there is definitely some work in progress there, and we are hoping we can share that soon. We have definitely already submitted a talk for a conference in February with that as a topic. So until then, we better get it done. So yeah, just as a kind of heads up, ARM support is not too far away now.
Excellent.
And is that mixed cluster or like a single cluster fully ARM?
Both really. So currently with 4.12, which I think we're going to release in January, I think it'll still be kind of separate payloads for each architecture, but with 4.13 and going forward, and we'll have that earlier in OKD, we'll have truly multi-arch manifest listed release payloads. It might make sense to still provide single arch payloads, or at least provide a way to only download single arch payloads, so you don't have to mirror all the images, even though you're not using them. But yeah, the goal is definitely to make that manifest listed and support multiple arches in one payload. There are, I think, a couple of blockers for that still. We are going to be able to build it earlier though for OKD than for OCP. Just seeing, I can't wait for mixed x86 ARM and Windows. I'm not sure about the Windows part, but yeah.
Yeah, as Jack says, hyper-converged infrastructure, exactly. All right, I think we've got everything. Oh, one last thing is that Brian and I have taken control of the Twitter. But it's not going to do us any good if folks don't retweet that stuff that goes out. So there was 2 tweets, I think, yesterday or the day before. Please retweet that stuff, like it and retweet it. Twitter is the platform that people are still sort of using for right now. Yes, we need a Mastodon, and
I was just going to say we need Mastodon. We
do, and an IKEA style set of directions will come with it, I'm sure. If someone wants to bring that up at the community meeting next week, we can talk about Mastodon. Lots of folks are going there, but my joke is related to the fact that a lot of like non-technical folks are sort of struggling with Mastodon. So it's understandable. Like, I think for people that are used to dealing with this stuff, it's easier, but for folks that aren't, like, it's not as easy. Yeah, social.okd.io. Exactly. You're right, Jack. Yeah, we do still need Twitter until it's dead. So please retweet. And if there's something that's relevant to OKD that you want to tweet out, please let Brian or myself know, and we'll make sure that it gets out there. And Luigi, I think at this point, you're the point person with Red Hat, because Diane has sort of disappeared. So we'll be relying on you to carry the flag forward.
I have all intentions to bug her and say, listen, give me all your contacts and all your working documents and all the rest, so that I'm not left in the dark, But yeah, I'll hook up with I'll get some info from her and be able to continue without any problems, hopefully.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you just need a big brain dump, and she has a lot in her brain, so that's going to be quite.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, thanks so much for coming to the meeting. Did Zoom work for everybody? I mean, other than the passcode issue, in general, though, are folks comfortable with this moving forward? Because I haven't changed all of the calendar invites yet, but if you're good, we can do that. Yeah. Okay, great. All right. Thanks so much, folks, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. See you.
Everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.